Joining us now from Toronto is Ahmed Khattab, a political researcher and instructor of international relations in Georgetown University, to analyze this extraordinary exchange, what it reveals about the future of US-Israel relations, and the politics behind Trump's pursuit of peace, sir. Sir, a very warm welcome, and it's a pleasure to have you with us in our program In Focus. This call between Trump and Netanyahu was unusually heated. What does it tell us about the changing dynamics between the two leaders?
Hello, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you. I think it first and foremost reveals Trump's frustration, right? There's perhaps even a slight desperation from Trump's tone with regarding to him trying to secure himself another foreign policy win. Let's just make sure that we set the points right on this. So the U.S. certainly has leverage over Israel. U.S. politicians have repeatedly stated that because Israel is a sovereign state, right? They're going to decide their own actions. They may not always act in ways that have U.S. approval. But ultimately, the partnership between the U.S. and Israel is going to stand, right? The policies are going to remain aligned, even if there are certain disagreements over specific actions, or even in this case, it seems like there's a disagreement over how Netanyahu should have received sort of the positive signs that have come out of Hamas's response to the Trump peace plan.
Sir, Trump clearly views Hamas conditionally yes as a diplomatic opening. Is he right to interpret it as a progress?
So my short answer is yes. I believe that Hamas simply reciprocated what President Trump has done, and I believe what Trump has done is what we call constructive ambiguity. So in other words, it appears that the Trump plan has intentionally left some elements ambiguous in order to create some space for negotiation and perhaps even compromise, right? So this might include things like the timeline for, like an exact timeline for Israeli withdrawal, what the Gaza governance structure is going to exactly look like, the need for Hamas to disarm in order to become harmless or not to remain a threat to Israel, without specifically outlining what kinds of weapons, perhaps offensive weapons versus defensive weapons. So all these kinds of things sort of reveal that Trump probably does view the conditional yes as progress. This is nothing new when it comes to Trump's own negotiation style, right? So he typically includes an over-ask, right? So he includes a lot of elements in his demands from states in negotiations on different issues. He usually includes a high level of threat, right? So he backs his demands with a lot of threats, which we have seen with the case of this plan with regards to Hamas in order to intimidate them. And then he usually follows by some level of compromise, right? So he might give up a few small things here and there, but ultimately, I do, yes, believe he views it as a progress.
But, sir, he doesn't need to intimidate Hamas at this point because Hamas is okay and is down to what's taking place now. The only factor that is not well understood is Netanyahu, which is not happy about what's going on, of course, obviously, and apparently, and everybody reads this. Plus, everybody is not confident in Netanyahu, and all analysts see that Netanyahu is not the person that gives a word and sticks to it, and he can change it at any minute. This is the first. Of course, aspect. The second aspect is that everybody sees that if this war ends, then Netanyahu goes to the ICC and is under a lot of pressure at this point and goes and gets into bigger problems. So he doesn't this war to end.
Yes. So I believe that Trump has in the back of his mind, and certainly do the rest of the U.S. Negotiators and even the mediators, what they might have perceived to be some sort of insistence on the part of Hamas with regards to things like complete withdrawal, the release of many more Palestinian prisoners, specifying which prisoners even for Israel to release, etc. And I think they might have also in reference refusal by Hamas of what came to be known as the Witkoff plan this past summer as well, or the Witkoff proposal. Right. And so here, I do believe that President Trump is very much interested in getting some real progress done
He
on this
is,
level.
sir, but how can we guarantee that if Hamas releases the detainees, then Benjamin Netanyahu will do all his promises and will release, of course, the Palestinian prisoners, plus move on with the plan that is a 20-point plan?
Yes, so I think Netanyahu has two main problems here. One is more on the immediate short term, and one is on the longer term. So on an immediate level, there is a real political concern for Netanyahu, right? So he is clearly worried about the collapses of his ruling coalition, right? There have been very credible threats by some of the main elements of his coalition, namely Smotrich, right, and his religious Zionist party, Ben Gvir as well, and his party. And so these are real worries when it comes to whether Netanyahu is able to continue in power through his ruling coalition. On a broader scale, as you had rightly mentioned, and I do agree with you, there is a lot of problems when it comes to Netanyahu globally, right? So I would even argue he has nothing left but his local legacy. So he certainly worries that given the current Arab and Muslim backing of the Trump plan, right, given the current international attention that the Palestinian cause has after the UN summit, after the important recognitions of the Palestinian state that we have seen, he's worried that his agreement with this plan might actually pave the way for a Palestinian state in the future, right? Which, of course, his right-wing supporters would definitely view as a great loss, as a catastrophe. And Netanyahu himself has called a Palestinian state an existential threat to Israel. And I think these are the two main things that are driving this anxiety on part of Netanyahu, and perhaps his hesitance to endorse any conditional acceptance or even positive signs that come from Hamas.
I hope he's always in anxiety, sir. How might this affect Israel's military posture in Gaza and its willingness to engage in the upcoming Cairo talks?
So I believe that Israel will try as much as possible to stay clear of any signs of retreat or even defeat, right? So they might attempt to stall certain things. We already see signs of this. Netanyahu has declared, for example, that the ceasefire will not go into effect until one main demand in the Trump peace plan is fulfilled, which is the release of all hostages, alive and dead. So a lot of stalling might be attempted. Right, and I believe this should at least go on until there are clear signs of an Israeli advantage or even triumph in this war, right? Because almost 2 years into the war, Israel has not achieved some of its key goals, right? Namely, getting the hostages back, right?
Sir,
and so,
go ahead.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say that so the Cairo talks, I believe, is going to reveal sort of Israel's attempts to maximize pressure. So I think this is the time when Israel is really going to step up the pressure on Hamas, on the mediators themselves, right, to ensure that the plan is interpreted in its advantage, right? So as much as possible, that Hamas's disarmament is fulfilled, right, in the way that Israel sees. Israel has demanded that it's included in ensuring that Hamas is disarmed, right? Gaza's governance as well, to exclude the Palestinian Authority and Hamas. So these are all things that Israel is really going to try to put pressure in order to ensure that they are achieved.
Sir, Trump managed to pressure Israel into halting airstrikes just hours after the call, despite, of course, no airstrikes were halted. Does this demonstrate a new level of leverage over Netanyahu?
I don't think it demonstrates a new level of leverage. I believe that the U.S. has always had leverage over Israel. And I believe that Israel and Netanyahu understand that Trump relies heavily on personal diplomacy. Trump values the world seeing his exercising of leverage over all parties, by the way, including Israel itself. So I think these kinds of understandings of political dynamics have to do with what kind of personality the leader has, uh, um, are probably what's driving the actions and decisions over here.
Sir Netanyahu's aides later claimed full alignment. Are these reassurances credible or an attempt to save political face?
Well, I believe they are credible, right? In the sense that I believe that Israel will remain committed to at least cooperating on the deal, right? So they will cooperate with the mediators, they will cooperate with the US on this plan. But I mean, as previous ceasefire breakdowns have actually revealed, nothing is guaranteed, not even with this plan. And U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has echoed a similar sentiment earlier.
Mr. Ahmed Khattab, in 10 seconds, because I have to wrap up this episode, are you optimistic about the talks that are going to take place in Cairo? And what do you expect from Donald Trump, U.S. President, if Netanyahu does not abide to his own rules and orders?
Well, I think that both sides here, or the three main sides, right? So U.S. is somewhere there, but it's really Hamas and Israel. They both have becoming increasingly aware of what their top priorities are, right? For Hamas, they have mentioned this in the response. They need to stop the bloodshed. They want to ensure that the Palestinians in Gaza are able to transition to somewhat of the beginnings of a normal life again. The Israelis are also aware that the world is becoming increasingly frustrated and unaccepting of what's happening in Gaza. And so, given that understanding in mind, I do think that there will be some kind of progress, right? There will be some positive results from this peace plan.
So you're optimistic, Ahmed Khattab. Thank you for joining us and for your thoughtful analysis.